All All hanging lamps are tame, except the loop of a householder's sifter and I'm sorry, all hanging loops are tame, except the loop of a householder's sifter and sieve. These are the words of Ramea. Common say they're all tahor except the loop of a flour merchant sifter, the loop of the sieve of the threshing floor, the loop of a hand sickle, the loop of a tax collector's staff, because they assist when the utensil is in use. This is the general rule. Those designed to assist when the utensil is in use are tame. Those designed merely for hanging are tahor. The shovel of bean grinders is tame, but the shovel used in storehouses is tahor. The shovel of a wine press is tame, but that of the threshing floor is tahor. This is the general rule. Utensils that are designed to hold something are tame, but those designed for gathering are tahor. Musical lyres are tame, but the lyres of the Levites are tahor. All liquids are tame, but the liquids of the butchering place are tahor. All scrolls contaminate the hands, except the scroll of the temple courtyard. And a theater horse is tahor. As for a sister,
Sitar.
Niktaman,
The sitar is a musical instrument.
right. A sifter, a sitar, a Niktaman, and a tambourine, these are tame. But Yehuda says the tambourine is susceptible to the tumor of the tzit because the woman well sits on it. A weasel trap is tame, but the mouse trap is taho. Okay.
All right. We're going to move on to next parak.
Okay.
That is that in your new volume?
Yes, I have the new one right here, and we are on Ted Zion.
It's Zayin Aleph. Okay. Kol kli eitz shenechlat lishnaim. So any wooden kli that got broken in half is tahor. Okay, it's no longer a kli, with the following exceptions. Shulchan kaful. So that's a folding table. Now, it's difficult again to visualize this because we don't have a um, uh, something analogous to that in our use today. We don't have these wooden tables that fold in this particular way. If we did, it would be plastic, and it would. I mean, plastic would probably follow the same din as wood, but if half of it breaks, then it's going to be useless. But in this particular case, the design was such that half of the table would be useful. Difficult to visualize, but just accept that half of the table is still usable as a table. The tamchoy hamiznon and the variety platter. So here you've got the sort of a platter with lots of little holes in it, sort of like they do with tapas, I think they call it.
I was thinking more like a lazy Susan. You know what lazy Susan
We're not
is?
talking about a lazy. I suppose a lazy Susan does have lots of dishes in it. But that if broken, it becomes useless because then it'll fall over. But here you've got a dish with lots of other smaller dishes in it, and because if that breaks in half, it's still usable in each side because you've still got lots of little dishes in each half. Okay, epiphorin shell balabais and the folding bench of a householder, which again is something we'll just take it as understood that this is something that's still, even if it's broken, it's still usable as a bench. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Af Hamages Bekod Habavli Kiyotze Behen. He says similarly, these two things which ArtScroll is just translated straight as Mages and the Babylonian Kod, so which means that we're going to have to go into the commentary to understand what these things were. Okay, so it's on page 685. They're both Aramaic words that mean dish or platter. And our Mishnah is using the Aramaic terms because it refers to specific types of dishes and platters that had partitions running down their middle, enabling the user to eat from either one part or the other. When these dishes break in half down the middle, Rabbi Yehuda says that the two parts maintain their tumah status because they can still be used to hold food or drink. The Tanna Kama, on the other hand, views these as broken pieces and rules that they become tahor. Okay, and the dispute can be explained as revolving around whether or not the separated halves maintain an independent form of a utensil, in which case they remain tameh, as Rabbi Yehuda says, or whether that form was lost with the breakage and becomes tahor, as per the Tanna Kama. Okay, back to the Mishnah itself. Clay 8 me'emasai mekablin tumah. So, at what point do wooden utensils become susceptible to contracting tumah? All right, so we've already learned in a previous Mishnah that golmei clay eights are tameh, that even though they're not finished, because in any case clay eights wooden utensils are not things that are that you pull out for when the guests come. It's just for casual use, and so people aren't generally that fussy about whether or not it's had a perfectly sanded finish or if it's shiny or whatever. It's just got to be usable. Okay, so now the Mishnah is asking that question, and we already know that that we have this principle starting off that if it's basically usable, it's already susceptible to tumah. So now we're going to define that point a little more sharply over here. At what point does it become basically usable? So here we start out by talking about a bed. Okay, mitav ha'arisa, so a bed or a cradle. These become susceptible or hadag, when one smooths them with the skin of a fish, when they actually get sanded down. So this immediately raises a kasha, because we used exactly this case, not exactly this case, but this sort of similar principle when we were talking about clay eights before, that they don't have to be completely sanded down before they become susceptible to tumah. So the explanation that was given in the commentary over here is that they need, you've got to get rid of the big splinters, because people are lying on this, and if you roll over in your sleep and get a splinter, it's not going to be fun. So you have to get rid of the big splinters before it's actually even basically usable. Okay. Gamar shelola shuf, if he decided that he was not going to smooth it down, then immediately it becomes tameh. Okay, if he's happy with it already without smoothing it. Cool. Rabbi Meir Omer Hamita Mishi Yesareg Ba Shlosha Batim. So Rabbi Meir comes and says that it only becomes usable when you've woven into it 3 batim. Now there are 2 different ways of interpreting that. One is the way that you see in the diagram over here, where the weave of you see you've got these ropes that make a weave at the bottom to rest your mattress on. So once you've put the first 3 of the weft basically and through there, that's called 3 batim, and it's now already usable for somebody to sit on the end. Or else, if you turn the page and you see what the 3 batim are, according to the Tiferes Yisrael, it's the first 3 squares, because you're tying a knot on each one as opposed to just weaving them. So he's calling that the 3 batim. So it seems that Rabbi Meir is coming with a kula. Or hang on, there are 2 possibilities. It could be that he's coming with a kula, that he's saying that even if the frame is sanded, but you haven't yet woven those 3 batim, it's tameh. Whereas the Tanna Kama is saying that it's tameh already, even before you start the weaving. Or it could be that it's a chumrah, that the Tanna Kama doesn't even talk about it being useful until it's completely woven and sanded. Whereas Rabbi Meir is saying it doesn't even have to be sanded. As soon as you've got those 3 weaves in there, then it becomes tameh, even if it's not been sanded. So it's a question of whether of what comes first. But at any rate, we have 2 ways of understanding it, and the halacha anyway is going to follow the Tanna Kama. That it depends on the sanding, and it doesn't have anything to do with the ropes that Rabbi Meir is talking about. All right. Wooden baskets. Here's a lovely diagram of how weavers make a wicker basket on page 689. Asalim shel eitz. So these wooden baskets, mishe yachsom v'kanev, they only become susceptible to tumah when the craftsman secures the rim and trims them. Now, again, because we've got this principle that even an unfinished wooden item is already susceptible to tumah, we've got to say that this kli is not usable until the craftsman has taken down the edges, because these edges are made out of hard reeds, and if they're sticking up and point in little pointy spikes all around the edges before he's cleaned it up, then it is basically unusable, because those spikes can hurt you. So you've got to fold them out the way and tie them down so that you've got a smooth rim. Otherwise, the kli is not really usable.
Before you go on, I don't understand I see the picture, but on 688, the difference between the Tif L says the bottom that they have there, one has like a shaded area, the bottom picture, the middle one doesn't. I'm not sure what the difference is between them. Are they both the same? That they put either way?
No, there's 2 different opinions. You see, the one of the diagram on the top is something that when Rabbi Meir is talking about batim, he's talking about rows.
Okay, and here
is talking about says that Rabbi Meir is talking about squares.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
all right. Thank you.
All right, so we're back in Mishnah base now. All right,
Okay.
so we've spoken about the wooden baskets that they become tame when the craftsman has secured the edges and tied them down. Mishel tamara, and if it's made out of palm leaves, even though he didn't trim them from the inside, they are still tame shekain mekaimin because they can be kept like that. Okay, so as soon as they're basically usable again, as with the other clay eights, it doesn't have to be a finished product; it just has to be usable. Okay, kalkala, the basket, the reed basket. It's when you have again, like the wicker basket the wooden basket that we were talking about before, is after you've tied down the edges, when you secured the rim and trimmed it, and finished hanging finished the cord that is hanging by, because that's what makes it usable.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Beit HaLeginin, the case for holding flasks, or Beit HaKosos, or something for holding cups. Even though he didn't trim them from the inside, these are tameh because they can be kept like this and they are usable in this state. We don't have to wrap our heads too hard about around what this looks like. What we really want to get is the principle that wooden Keilim become susceptible to tumah from the moment that they are usable, not from the moment that they're finished, as opposed to metal Keilim, which only become tameh once they are finished, because those are more chashuv and they're not considered finished Keilim until they've actually had finishing touches put on them.
In that case, that's a kiddush. That's really a kiddush. That's a kiddush then, saying that one saying that it has to be finished completely, and then it's
right, because again, the metal Keilim are more chashuv, and you're not going to pull them out and serve them on your table unless they've finished the shining and the hammering and they look good. Whereas the wooden Keilim are more casual, and the bar for using them is a lot lower. So as soon as it's usable, even if it's not a finished product, even if it's not been sanded down to a perfect sheet and whatever, that's still ready for tumah. Okay, kanonin are small sifters. The kalasos and women's baskets. Okay, same thing as we had with the reed baskets before. Once the rims have been secured and trimmed. Hakanonim hagedolim, however, the big baskets, the hasugin hagedolim, and large bins. So imagine like a big laundry basket. That's kind of made of ribs, and you can see the pictures on the opposite side what they look like over there. So these are when you make two rows of you see those coils, you make them into a coil, and then you wrap them around and tie them down. So as soon as they have got two rows, that's now considered a receptacle, and that's usable, and immediately now it's susceptible to tumah as well. Okay, and we're not so worried about it being finished, because it's already wrapped into a coil. There are no sharp edges over here that are going to get in your way of using it. Yam nafa, so that's the screen of a sifter, or kavara, or a sieve. The kaf shel moznaim, and the pan of a balance. You just need one loop around the bottom in order to define it as a receptacle. So even one round at this point, they're considered finished and they're susceptible to tumah. So I just want to see the comment over here. Above on page 696 in the second column, it says above in the Mishnah's previous ruling regarding large baskets and large bins, Eliyahu Rabbah interpreted two rows of weave as meaning the outermost row of the base and the row above that. Accordingly, in this present ruling, one row of the weave would mean only the outermost row of the base. In other words, these utensils need no room at all. Once their flat base is complete, they're susceptible to tumah. So when you're looking at the outside and you see two rows for the basket, that's considered it's got a receptacle, because there's only one row above the base, and that's good enough. But these other ones are saying that even from the beginning, even for the first row, they're already susceptible, and that would probably be a tumah d'Rabbanan once he's if it's just one row, because really it is flat. But like the baker's pans, because it's used as a surface for working on, Chazal made a tumah on it. These ones, even before they become receptacles, also they become tame. Finally, hakupa, the basket. Misha yaseh shtei tzfiros lerochav shela. Again, it's 2 rings around its circumference. The ha'arak, and the strap basket, Misha yaseh bo tzfira achas. And so the strap basket, let's just see the strap basket. It's a rectangular basket, long and narrow in shape. It was used by craftsmen who work with long, thin straps of leather, which gave rise to the basket's name. The arak, like a kuppah, was fashioned from separate rings. However, its completed walls or rim were lower than those of the kuppah. Therefore, once one ring of its walls is in place, it's susceptible to tumah. For all the above coiled baskets and utensils, the Mishnah has taught that as soon as 1 or 2 rounds or rings are attached, the basket becomes susceptible to tumah. And Rambam makes it clear that the height of the walls of these utensils is normally made higher than this minimum amount. However, since at these respective points, one can see what type of basket is being fashioned, and the basket begins to have the form of a utensil, the baskets are already susceptible to tumah. Okay. So Ravad explains that the Mishnah is stating the points of functionality for these baskets. At their respective points, people will start using the baskets even if they intend to finish the walls later. Okay.
All right. And we still have Keilim, and we should have Aleph Gimel.
Well, let's go to Yud Beis Zion first, and then we'll go back to Aleph Gimel.
Yud Beis Zion. What's a Yud Beis Zion Gimel, right?
Zion. Yud Beis Zion, yeah. Dinar.
A dinner that became disqualified and one prepared it in order to hang it around the girl's neck is tameh. And likewise, a seller that becomes disqualified and one prepared it in order to weigh it with it is tameh. In what degree may a seller become disqualified and still be permitted to keep it? Up to 2 dinars. Less than that, he must cut up the coin. An ola and a pen, or a plummet and weights, and kurim and a ruler and a writing table are tameh. And all unfinished wooden utensils are tameh except for those made from eshkora. A yud is a utensil made of an olive branch is tahor, and its sap is removed. A sword, a knife, a dagger, a spear, and a hand sickle, a reaping sickle, a trimming scissors, and the scissors of barbers that were separated, they are tameh. Rav Yoshi says the part closer to the handle is tameh, but the part closer to the tip is tahor. Regarding shears that were separated into 2 parts, but Yehuda rules them tameh, but the sages do them tah.
Okay, now we can go to Aleph Gimel.
Above them is one who cohabitates with Anita, in that he transmits tumah to a bed that is beneath him, like that of it which is above. Above them is a discharge of a zav, a spittle, and semen is urine, and the menstrual blood of Anita, in that they transmit tumah via contact and are being carried by being carried. Above them is a merkav, and it transmits tumah from beneath a rock, a placed rock. Above a merkav is a mishkav, where its contact is equal to its being carried. Above a mishkav is a zav, and that a zav creates a mishkav, where a mishkav does not create a mishkav does not create a mishkav. Above the zav is a zava, in that she transmits tumah to any man who cohabitates with her. Above the zava is a matorah, and that he transmits tumah via entry into a covered area. Above the matorah is a bone the size of a barley grain, and that it transmits a tumah of 7 days. Most stringent than all of them is a corpse, and that it transmits tumah via an ohel, a means to which all others do not transmit tumah. 10 levels of tumah emanate from a person. A makusa kaporim is forbidden with regard to kodesh, but he is permitted with regard to truma and maisa. If he subsequently became a tevel yom, he is forbidden with regard to kodesh and truma, but is permitted with regard to maisa. If he subsequently became a balkari, he is forbidden with regard to the three of them. If he subsequently became a bowl nida, he transmits tumah onto a bed which is beneath him, like that which is above. If he subsequently became a zav who experienced 2 discharges, he transmits tumah to a mishkav and a moshav, and he requires immersion in spring water. But he is exempt from an offering. But if he experienced 3 discharges, he is obligated to bring an offering. And if he subsequently became a confined mitzvah, he transmits tumah via entry into a covered area. But he is exempt from letting his hair grow wild, from rending his garments, from shaving it from the birds, But if he was a confirmed Mitzvah, he is obligated in all of these. If a limb was severed from him that does not have a sufficient flesh on it, it transmits tumah via contract and via being carried, but it does not transmit tumah via an ohel. If it does have sufficient flesh on it, it transmits tumah via contact, via being carried, and via an ohel. The amount of flesh deemed sufficient is enough to affect healing. But Yeshuda says if in one place there is enough flesh to surround it with the width of a weft thread, though it is enough to affect healing. Okay.
Okay.
And we are Bakaros. In Zion, Zion. These are fit in man but unfit in animals, a father and a son, a tray for one delivered by cesarean section, one with whom a sin has been committed, or one who has killed a person. One who marries forbidden women is unfit until he pronounces a vow prohibiting from deriving benefits from them. One who contaminates himself with the tumah of dead bodies is unfit until he pledges not to contaminate himself with the tumah of dead bodies. There is a Bechor in regard to inheritance who is not a Bechor in regard to redemption from a Kohen. One who is a Bechor in regard to redemption from a Kohen and not yet a Bechor in regard to inheritance. One who is a Bechor in regard to inheritance and redemption from a Kohen. And there is one who is not a Bechor either in regard to inheritance or redemption from a Kohen. Who is a Bechor in regard to inheritance, who is not a Bechor in regard to redemption from a Kohen? One who follows non-viable fetus, whose head emerged alive, and his 9-month fetus, whose head emerged dead. Or if he had previously aborted something resembling an animal, a beast, or a bird, these are the words of Reb Meir. We can comment, however, saying until they have something of a human form. If a woman aborts a sandal or an amniotic sac or an embryo which has begun to take shape, or a fetus comes out in pieces, the child that follows any of them is a Bechor in regard to inheritance, but not in regard to redemption from a Kohen. If one who had no children married a woman who had previously given birth, even if she was given birth when she was a slave and she was emancipated, or when she was a non-Jewish and she converted, and after she became a Yisrael, she gave birth again, he is a Bechor in regard to inheritance, but he's not a Bechor in regard to redemption from a Kohen. But Yossi Hagili says he is a Bechor both in regard to inheritance and redemption from a Kohen, as it says, whatever opens every womb among the children of Israel until they open a Yisrael's womb. If one who had children married a woman who had never given birth, or a woman converted while pregnant, or a woman who was emancipated while pregnant, or one who bore a child together with Kohen's daughter, or with a Levi's daughter, or together with a woman who had already given birth, and similarly a woman who had not waited 3 months after her husband but married and gave birth, and she had not known whether the child is a 9-month child of the former or a 7-month child of the latter, he is a Bechor in regard to redemption from a Kohen, but not in regard to inheritance. When a Bechor, both in regard to inheritance and redemption from a Kohen, who is a Bechor in regard to inheritance and redemption from a Kohen? If a woman aborts a mass full of blood, full of water, or full of a varied substance, or if she aborts something resembling fish, locusts, abominable creatures, or creeping things, or if she aborts on the 40th day, the one following them is a Bechor in regard to both inheritance and redemption from a Kohen. One delivered by cesarean section and the one following him, in either of them is a Bechor in regard to inheritance or in regard to redemption from a Kohen. Reb Shimon says the first one is Bechor in regard to inheritance, and the second one is in regard to Shvaim Selah.
Okay. Sanhedrin.
We have Beit. When he was approximately 10 cubits from the atoning place, they would say to him, confess, that it is the practice of those who are executed to confess, because anyone who confesses have share in the world to come. For so we find concerning Achan, that Yeshua said to him, my son, please give honor to the God of Israel and return the confession to him. And Achan answered Yeshua and said, I have sinned, that thus have I done. From where do we know that his confession brought him atonement? Because it says, and Yeshua said, why have you troubled us? Hashem shall trouble you on this day, and that this day you shall trouble, but you will not be troubled in the world to come. If he does not know how to confess, they say to him, say, let my death be an atonement for all my sins. And Yehuda says, if he knows that he is the victim of a plot, he should say, let my death be an atonement for all my sins, except for this one. They said to him, if so, everyone will say so in order to clear himself. When one is 4 cubits from the stoning place, they remove his clothing. They cover a man in the front and a woman, both front and back. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, but the comment saying a man is stoned unclothed and a woman is not stoned unclothed. The stoning place was elevated twice the height of a man. One of the witnesses shoves him by his hips, and he falls onto his chest, and he is turned onto his hips. If he dies from this, that is sufficient. If not, the second witness takes the stone, throws it upon his chest. If he dies from this, it is sufficient. If not, his stoning is by all of Israel, as it is stated, the hands of the witnesses shall be upon him first to put him to death, and the hand of the entire nation afterward. All those who are stoned are hanged. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. The sages say no one is hanged except for the blasphemer and the idolater. A man is hanged facing the people, and one facing the gibbet. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer, and the sages say a man is hung, but the woman is not hanged. Said Rabbi Eliezer to them, did not Shimon ben Shatak hang women in Ashkelon? They said to him, he hanged 80 women, and one may not try even two in one day. How do they hang him? They sink a post into the ground with a beam protruding from it. He places his two hands one upon the other and hangs him. Rabbi Yoshi says the post is leaned against the wall, and he hangs him in the way that butchers do it. They release him immediately. If he is left overnight, this constitutes a transgression of a negative commandment, as is stated, and you shall not leave his holy body, his body hanging overnight. For you shall bury him on that day, for one who is hanged is like a curse to Hashem. That is to say why this person is hanged, because he blasphemed Hashem, and the name of Hashem is profaned.
Okay.
Okay. Sukkah. Gimel Valley. Rabbi Ishmael says these myrtle twigs, three myrtle twigs, two willow twigs, and one lulav and one estrog are required, even if two are broken off and one is not broken off. But Tarfon says even if all three are broken off. Yeah, Kiva says just as there is one lulav and one estrog, so there is one myrtle twig and one willow twig. A stolen estrog is or dry one is invalid, and one from an ashara or from a city that was led astray is invalid, and one of orla is invalid. One of contaminated truma is invalid. If it is a pure truma, he should not use it. But if you use it, it is valid. If it is of demai, Beis Shammai validates it, Beis Hillel validates it. If one is of Maisa, Sheni, and Yerushalayim, he should not use it. But if he did use it, it's valid. If a scab boil grew on most of it, or its pitton was removed, or it was peeled, or it was split, or it was punctured, or missing a slight portion, it is invalid. If a boil covered a minority of it, or its stem was removed, or if it was punctured and nothing was missing, it's valid. If Ethiopian estrog is invalid, if one is green, it's a leak. One validates it, but Rabbi Yehuda invalidates it.
And brachas.
And brachas. Daled base. When the Chunya ben Hakanya would enter the base midrash and depart, he would offer a short prayer. They asked him, what place is there for this prayer? He said to them, when entering, I pray that no stumbling block should rise through me, and when I leave, I give thanks for my life. Rabbi Gamliel states every person is obliged to recite Shemona Esrei daily, and Rabbi Yeshua says a digest of Shemona Esrei. Rabbi Kiva says if his prayer is fluent in his mouth, he recites Shemona Esrei, and if not, a digest of the 18. Rabbi Eliezer says if one makes the tefillah a fixed task, the tefillah is not a supplication. Rabbi Yeshua says anyone journeying from a place of danger may recite a short petition, except save, O Lord, your people Israel, when there is a strange to transmission, let their need be before you. Blessed are you, O Lord, who hearkens unto prayer.
And that's it for today.